So, picture this. The Israelites, God's chosen people, are camped out on the dusty plains just outside Canaan, the land God promised them way back when. They've been wandering the desert for 40 years. Yep, 40 long, sweaty years after escaping Egypt. Now, under Joshua's leadership, they're staring down their first big challenge in the Promised Land. Jericho, a city with walls so thick and tall they look like they could laugh off any attack. We're talking fortress-level defenses here, folks. Joshua, though, he's not just some guy with a sword and a dream. He's got faith, and he's got a direct line to the Almighty. One day, while he's scoping out Jericho's walls, probably wondering how in the world they're going to crack this nut, a mysterious figure shows up, a commander of the Lord's army, sword drawn, looking like he means business. Joshua's like, "You friend or foe?" The guy basically says, "I'm with God, so get your sandals off. This is holy ground." Joshua listens, and that's when God lays out the craziest battle plan you've ever heard. God tells Joshua, "Look, I've already given you Jericho. The city's yours, but you got to do this my way." The plan? March around the city once a day for 6 days with all your fighting men, some priests blowing ram's horn trumpets, and the Ark of the Covenant, the holiest object they've got. On the 7th day, circle it 7 times, blow the horns like there's no tomorrow, and have everybody shout. That's it. No battering rams, no catapults, just walking, blowing horns, and yelling. Joshua's probably thinking, Lord, you sure about this? But he trusts God. He's seen miracles before, Red Sea parting, manna from heaven, so he's all in. Back at camp, Joshua gathers his people and lays out the plan. The priests are ready with their trumpets, the soldiers are geared up, and the ark's polished and gleaming. The Israelites are pumped, but probably a little confused. I mean, who wins a war by taking a daily stroll? Still, they're ready to follow Joshua, who's following God. The stage is set, and Jericho's about to get a front-row seat to a miracle. The sun's barely up, and the Israelites are already moving. Joshua's got the whole camp organized like a well-oiled machine. First come the armed men, swords and shields ready, though they won't need them today. Behind them, 7 priests blow their ram's horns, those long, curly shofars that sound like a mix of a trumpet and a foghorn. Then comes the Ark of the Covenant, carried by priests, a gold-covered box that represents God's presence. The rest of the people follow, but here's the kicker. Nobody's allowed to say a word. Total silence, except for those blaring horns. They march out toward Jericho, and you can imagine the folks on the city walls watching this weird parade. The walls are packed with Jericho's soldiers, probably smirking. What are these guys doing? Just walking in circles? The city's locked up tighter than a drum, gates barred, nobody in or out. They're ready for a siege, but the Israelites aren't even carrying ladders. The priests blow their horns, the feet keep marching, and the dust kicks up under thousands of sandals. One lap around the city, and that's it. Joshua leads everyone back to camp without so much as a pebble thrown. Back at camp, the people are quiet. Joshua's orders were clear, no talking until he says so. Some folks are probably wondering if this is going to work. I mean, they've got faith, but those walls look impossible. Joshua, though, he's rock solid. He reminds them of God's promise. The Lord's given us this city. That night, as the camp settles down under the stars, the silence feels heavy, like something big's brewing. The people don't know it yet, but they're part of a plan that's going to go down in history. Meanwhile, in Jericho, the mood's probably tense. The king and his advisors are scratching their heads. What's with the horns? Why the ark? Why no attack? They're used to armies charging with spears, not marching in eerie silence. It's unsettling, and that's exactly what God's going for. The Israelites are showing up, day after day, trusting God's way over their own. It's not about their strength, it's about His. Days 2 through 6 roll by, and it's the same routine. Sunrise, horns, march, silence, back to camp. The Israelites are getting the hang of it. But let's be real, it's got to feel a little monotonous. Imagine being one of those soldiers, circling Jericho's walls, hearing nothing but the crunch of sandals and those relentless shofar blasts. No trash-talking the enemy, no battle cries, just discipline and trust. Joshua's keeping everyone focused, probably reminding them of Moses and the miracles they've seen. God's got this, he says, and they believe him. Up on Jericho's walls, The defenders are starting to sweat. At first, they might have laughed at this weird Israelite parade, but by day 4 or 5, it's not so funny anymore. The silence is creepy, the horns are unnerving, and the ark's presence feels like a warning. The people of Jericho worship pagan gods, and they've heard stories about Israel's God, plagues in Egypt, the Red Sea splitting. Now that God's ark is circling their city, it's like a divine spotlight's shining on them. The king's probably barking orders, double-checking the gates, and telling everyone to stay sharp. The Israelites, meanwhile, are learning something deep. This whole march isn't just about taking down walls. It's about trusting God's timing. They could have tried storming the city on day 1, but that's not the plan. God's teaching them patience, obedience, and faith. Every step around Jericho is a step of trust, a declaration that they believe God's promise over what their eyes see. Those walls might look unbreakable, but the Israelites are starting to sense that something's shifting, maybe not in the stone, but in the spiritual realm. By day 6, the camp's buzzing with quiet anticipation. They've done this march 6 times now, and tomorrow's the big one, day 7. Joshua gathers the people and repeats God's instructions, 7 laps, horns, and a shout. The priests polish their trumpets, the soldiers check their gear, and the ark's ready to lead the way. The air's thick with expectation, like the calm before a storm. Jericho's walls still stand tall, but the Israelites are starting to feel it. God's about to do something huge. Day 7 dawns, and the Israelites are up before the sun. Today's different. Joshua's got that fire in his eyes, and the camp's buzzing with nervous energy. The plan's the same but bigger, 7 laps around Jericho, not 1. The priests are gripping their shofars, the soldiers are lined up, and the ark's gleaming in the morning light. Joshua gives the signal, and off they go, horns blaring, feet marching, and not a single word spoken. The silence is deafening, except for those horns cutting through the desert air. Lap 1, lap 2, lap 3. The Israelites keep circling, and you can bet the people of Jericho are freaking out. 7 laps? That's new. From the walls, they see this endless procession, the ark shining like a holy beacon. The defenders are probably shouting insults, trying to shake the Israelites, but Joshua's crew stays focused. Lap 4, lap 5. The sun's climbing higher, the dust is thick, and the tension's building. The priests blow their horns without missing a beat, and the ark keeps moving, a reminder that God's right there with them. By lap 6, the Israelites are tired but wired. They've been at this for hours, circling a city that's mocked them for days. The walls still look as solid as ever, but faith is kicking in. Joshua's probably praying, the priests are pouring their lungs into those trumpets, and the people are ready for what's next. Lap 7 starts, and you can feel the momentum. The horns are louder, the steps are stronger, and the whole army's on edge, waiting for Joshua's signal. Finally, they finish the 7th lap. Joshua steps forward, raises his hand, and the priests blast one long, piercing note. Shout! Joshua yells, "For the Lord has given you this city." And man, do they shout. It's not just a yell. It's a roar, a release of 6 days of silence, of 40 years of wandering, of every ounce of faith they've got. The sound echoes across the plains, and something impossible happens. That shout. Oh, man, it's like the whole world shakes. The Israelites pour everything into it, a thunderous cry that feels like it could crack the sky. And then, it happens. Those massive, unbreakable walls of Jericho start to tremble. Cracks spiderweb through the stone, dust billows, and with a sound like 1,000 earthquakes, the walls collapse. Just, boom, flat to the ground, like they were made of sand. The Israelites stand there, jaws dropped, as the dust clears and Jericho lies wide open. Joshua doesn't miss a beat. Charge! He shouts, and the army surges forward, over the rubble and into the city. The defenders of Jericho are in chaos. Their walls are gone, their confidence shattered. The Israelites take the city, just as God promised. But here's the thing, God had strict rules. Jericho's a cursed city, devoted to destruction. The people are to take no plunder, except for gold, silver, and bronze for the Lord's treasury. Oh, and Rahab, the woman who hid Israel's spies earlier? She and her family are spared, just as promised. As the Israelites move through the city, the priests carry the ark, a reminder that this victory isn't theirs, it's God's. The fighting's quick. Without their walls, Jericho's defenseless. The Israelites don't gloat or linger. They follow Joshua's orders to the letter. By the end of the day, Jericho's gone, reduced to ruins, a testament to God's power. Rahab and her family are safely brought out, and the gold and silver are set aside for the Lord. The people of Canaan hear about this, and let me tell you, they're terrified. Word spreads like wildfire. Israel's God just flattened Jericho without a single battering ram. The Israelites head back to camp, exhausted but in awe. They didn't lift a sword until the walls fell. God did the heavy lifting. Joshua kneels, probably thanking God for keeping his promise. The camp's quiet again, but it's a different kind of silence now, one of reverence and wonder. The dust settles, and Jericho's ruins are a stark reminder of what just went down. The Israelites are back at camp, and you can bet they're telling stories about that shout and those walls crumbling like a house of cards. Joshua, ever the leader, makes it clear this was God's victory, not theirs. He warns the people to stay faithful, to remember that God's the one who brought them here. He even pronounces a curse on anyone who tries to rebuild Jericho's walls, a warning that this place belongs to God's judgment. For the Israelites, Jericho's fall is a game changer. They're not just a bunch of desert wanderers anymore. They're a nation with a mission. Canaan's other cities are shaking in their boots, knowing Israel's God is the real deal. The victory boosts the people's faith, but it's also a challenge. God's shown he can deliver, but he expects obedience. The march, the silence, the shout, it was all about trusting his way, not theirs. That lesson's going to stick with them as they face the rest of Canaan. Rahab's story gets told around the campfires, too. A woman from Jericho, an outsider, trusted Israel's God and was saved. It's a reminder that God's mercy isn't just for the Israelites. It's for anyone who turns to him. She joins the people, a living example of grace in the middle of judgment. The gold and silver from Jericho go to the Lord's treasury, a symbol that this victory isn't about getting rich, but about honoring God. Centuries later, folks would still talk about Jericho. It's a story of faith over fear, of God's power over human strength. The Israelites didn't need siege engines or war tactics. They needed trust. That shout wasn't just noise. It was a declaration that God keeps his promises. For us today, Jericho's a reminder. When the walls in our lives seem impossible, God's got a plan, even if it sounds as crazy as marching in silence. All he asks is that we show up, obey, and believe.